Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is basically what I have set up for the season so far. It still has work to do.
Fate.
But yeah, I tried to think about all the different parts that we had to get to. It was a mess in the beginning. Like everything is now organized better, but it was all like this in the beginning where it was just all notes
Scattered.
scattered, and then I kind of organize it into something that we could make tangible and the girls could actually digest and get better at. So like
Right.
let's go let's just start at the top, so immediately it was like, what do we have to get better at? Like, how are we going to win? What's my plan overall in like simple terms? That's where we got to this, where it's like winning at volleyball is pretty simple at its core when you think about it, right? You just got to win the first ball side out percentage, right? You don't want to get ace more than the other team does, or
Right.
if they're serving at you, you're winning the serve back as fast as possible. So the more that we win first ball side out, the more that we're going to win games. And then we also need to win. There's only one other half to this game besides serve receive, which is you're serving and then you're playing defense, and then you're converting those into points. So my goal is, okay, that's straight and simple. Everybody needs to understand we need to side out right away, first ball side out, and we need to convert as many defensive plays into points. So I'll just keep reading. That means pass well and get kills off the first serve. And it also means to serve tough, keep the other team out of system, and get the block or dig and be able to convert that into a point. Very simple. So how are we going to do that? So this is our plan is we're going to rely heavily on attacking back row setters and using the blockers, not avoiding them. So we have to understand, like I was trying to think, like I have to understand who I have on the team. I got a bunch of little girls and they're not going to be the biggest for sure against who we're playing. So we're going to have to be smarter and faster. So I want to run fast offense where we're trying to use the block. So I'm going to rely heavily on teaching them how to tool, how to swing off high hands, how to cover when we get blocked, and just be really prepared for that, as well as banging out of system. So like when we're in defense, I need them to be able to rip balls that are set from off the net, like from a dig, transition, still swing at that ball. Very little free balls or easy balls, and we need to be able to set out of system like crazy and hit like out of system, or hit like crazy out of system. For defense, we need a strong foundation with the block, not big hands. But if we can stop the balls that are being hit straight down, then we can have a really good back row defense deep in the court, for which then they'll dig good balls and we'll be able to get a point out of system. And that should take care of our two bigger goals, which is first ball side out and getting points out of defense. The last thing is, I think I mentioned on it, our setters need to be able to read the other team's block and set away from the middle blockers. So if we're going to be fast, I want to keep the ball away from the middles as much as possible. The other team's
Okay, specifically the middle of the court or the middles?
of the middles. So
middles.
if, let's say, the ball is passed more towards the opposite and they see my middle going towards the setter who's more on the right side of the court, and their middle starts to push towards
Go to the outside.
middle, then we're going out. Throw that ball out that way, because that's going to take that middle a long time to get out there, and
It's a hard set for your setter to make.
right, leave a gap. So the setter's got to be really aware of where the other team's blockers are. So I got to find a way to teach that throughout practice.
Nice.
And then where we want to end up,
You're addressing these. When are you addressing this?
immediately. I'm gonna be super transparent about all these things with the kids. Like what I'm making this list is going to Brandy and Shayna, and then all to the kids after we figure out how to digest it.
Okay.
So then the end goal towards the end of the season is we want to be running a very fast and deceptive offense with lots of options and routes. And then we want to be playing with unity and everybody understanding the ins and outs of this system. That's crucial for us, because if we don't know who's taking what ball or what route you're supposed to take in which situation, then it's going to be like a free ball and we're going to lose that point. And we're going to win games based off of 2 points. I know it. It's going to be 24, 26, 23, 25, because there's going to be a lot of those if we're going to win, If not, we're going to lose by a lot. It's either we're going to lose by a lot or we're going to barely win. So how do we do that? That's what I think is going to happen. We have FATE. I think you already figured that out. That's our acronym. for our core values. Our biggest core values is we need focus. Our team is very goofy and loose, and Shayna and Brandy and me all agree like they need to be more determined and more focused on growing instead of just more like, hey, I'm with my friends having fun, especially if we want to go from 36 to top 10.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to be super focused at practice, and we got to use all of our time. We got to have great attitudes. We're going to focus on positive attitudes, which they already do a great job at. We just want to continue to remind them to do that throughout practice. Teamness, how good of a teammate are you being? Are we communicating? And are you telling each other good job? Do you have each other's backs? All that stuff. And then effort, obvious. The goal is to be 1% better every day and then compete like hell. So when I put these on the board as core values, they're just going to be things that I'm constantly talking about. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier, like
Mm-hmm.
what is the focus behind what you're saying as a coach? It needs to be like that, right? Like, hey, great swing, but what are we focused on right now? So I'm going to just say these words a lot.
Right.
You're having a positive attitude about this situation. How's your attitude right now? Are you being a good teammate right now? I'm just going to be saying these things constantly. And you know this, like with Charette, he would say 1% better. He would constantly talk about being 1% better. So then we don't need to break down past this, but I just wanted to show you. I started to break things down based off of, okay, what are the objectives? We saw like how it was simply, right? Okay, well, how do you do that? It's like, I need to be able to do all these things by the end of the year. Not right away, but by the end of the year.
Right.
And I tried to section them by defense versus offense because we're going to have one defense day, one offense day.
That's one thing I was recently with my 14s, and I'm asking them, when are you in offense? When are you in defense? And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Offense and defense? Like, oh, wow. We have long ways to go.
Yeah, it's very hard to take like to go like, what do I actually know? And what am I assuming that they know? And they don't, I gotta assume that they don't know anything.
They don't know. Exactly.
Little things like that.
Yep.
So I tried to break these off by sections. Like this is all blocking, right? Like both of them have serving. Serving is going to be huge for us. We're going to be super okay with, as long as everything else works, we're going to be super okay with missing serves because I want them to try to bomb serves. I want them to try to get aces or make the other team go out of system.
You know, I'm thinking the opposite is let's start aiming short.
Yeah, I mean, but that that could be serving tough too. But
right,
if you're playing against good teams that their passers are good,
they can move really
they're gonna read it and they're gonna move to the short ball almost easier than the deep ball.
Sure.
So it's just again like one of the things that the first thing I thought about is who do I have to beat, right? And the thing that I know about the teams that I'm playing at the top of the PVL is, or what's now just the Premier or whatever it is, Power League. If they're in system, they're getting a point most of the time. I'm pretty sure if they pass a dime ball with our small blockers, they're probably going to get the point unless we do something fantastic in that play to save that dig. It's going to be a point. So I need them to be out of system as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they do get the point, we are siding out immediately with our own offense, right? So the goal for us is going to be attack hard at the service line with short balls and deep balls, but they got to be super deceptive. They got to be very flat before they get across the net and fast enough for the other team not to read them. So I got that on both days. We're always going to be serving like crazy and just becoming monsters at serving. And then we got a blocking section and a pins defend, our little defense section right here. Moving deep, middle backs playing deep, floor defense, whatever. And then setters being able to set out of tempo out of system and giving free balls more efficiently, aggressively. I don't know if you could really read these things.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So I try to break it up like this. Okay, these are all the objectives we have. And then, and I love when things kind of work out. And it's like, oh, that was meant to be. So I'm like looking at our practice dates, and I have 22 practices before our first tournament. So I'm like, okay.
Holy shit.
22 practices.
That's a whole lot.
Yeah. That's 3 days a week, 3 days a week starting next week. So, and
Oh,
we're not taking Thanksgiving week off. We'll practice the day before
are
Thanksgiving.
you? I was gonna ask you that. Are you passing mornings or afternoons?
Afternoons. You mean those weeks when they have
Yeah, on
vacation?
Thanksgiving.
I'm not gonna practice the day of Thanksgiving.
No, I
Oh,
know Thanksgiving week. Sorry,
oh,
mornings or
I don't know. We might move it based off the schedule. I haven't thought about it.
so you don't know either.
No,
Okay.
I'm worried about more stressful things.
Like what?
Like, how am I gonna teach them all these things? How am I gonna beat the best teams in the PVL? I've never finished lower than I did the year before.
Yeah.
So to me, it's being 36, knowing that this is the farthest I could take this team. I'm hoping that this plan is the plan to get them into the top parts of PVL.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
for sure.
So what was cool was like, all right, I have a theory, and I think I always say it takes 6 practices to really nail something down.
Right.
So like I always tell parents that, like, give me 6 privates. After 6 privates, that thing that you want fixed, it'll be fixed after six
Mm,
privates.
I like that.
So I was like, okay, well, I got all these things. I wonder if I separate them into phases of 6, if it will work. And I decided I wanted to do 4 scrimmages the week of or before our first tournament
Nice.
ahead of time. And I was like, okay, how many phases can I do? Can I do phases of 6? And it was just perfect that we had 18 practices. So I was like, sick. That's 3 phases of 6 practices. That's exactly what I wanted. It couldn't have worked out perfectly. So basically now I have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 leading up to scrimmages. And then I came up with the practice outlines. We're going to go heavy in skill work in the beginning. So the first phase, they're all the same pretty much, except for substituting. In the first phase of 6 practices, we're going to do more skill work where me, Brandy, and Shayna are separated, and we're working with
Okay.
the girls individually, or like one person's with just the passers or one person's with just the middles. And we're doing all the skill work and then less competition time. And we're going to do a free water policy so that I don't have to do timeouts for water. So it's just, if you need a drink, go get a drink. We're not stopping. So we're going hard in this first phase, which is,
Mm,
I don't want them to
good.
be tired later. So we're going
Yeah.
to go hard early. And then I'm going to slow it down in phase 2. And we're going to do less time. We're only going to do 20 minutes of skill work and then 40 minutes of competition. And then
Okay.
same thing for phase 3. 20 minutes skill work, 40 minutes competition, and it's going to be slower so that they're not that tired. The goal is now, and I haven't done this yet. Winston, you're being a racket, man. So now it's like, okay, so now I got to take phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and I got to go back to this list of
Mhm.
objectives and be like, okay, I have 6 practices to teach them, or 3 batches of different things. I can't do more than like 2 or 3 things of practice, or it's going to be too much. I may be pushing it to do 4 things of practice. So that's why I tried to
Mhm.
batch them like this. It's like, okay, phase 1, this is going to be the main focus. Phase 2, this is going to be the main focus. And then phase 3, this is going to be the main focus. Serving is going to have its own time always. Serving and passing are going to have their own time. So like this is going to always have its own time, serve and pass. But
Yeah.
then this is going to have a phase, this is going to have a phase, and this is going to have a phase. So I'm going to break those up now based off of the phases on what needs to happen first,
Right.
second, and third. And then I'm going to break it up like this. So what are we doing for the first 6 practices? What are the mental goals? What do I need them to be training? So like the first thing Shayna and Brandy were telling me is like they need to be more focused and determined to get better. So I'm gonna talk about that for the first 6 practices. Are we being determined to get better and earn playing time? I'm gonna be taking points so that people know how many points they're earning at practice, and points are gonna translate into playing time. It's gonna tell me who should be starting. Um, Also, a concept that we have is starters and closers. We don't have starters that stay in the whole time. I need people that who's going to start the game very well and who's going to finish the
Mhm.
game very well. I don't want
Dude,
people to be
yeah, I
tired.
think that's huge because a lot of people rely on those starters, especially if you're a bench player.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, they're probably gonna stay in the whole time. But now
no,
knowing that you have a closing team, that girl who's been chilling there the whole month, she's gonna
right,
be like, oh fuck, now I have to go in and do the same thing.
right. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that everybody, like with 15 people on my roster, I'm hoping to use them I want people to, like I said, last year we beat some teams in playoffs because their starters were just dead tired,
Right.
and we were making subs, and our girls were fresh all the way till the end.
Hmm.
So that's going to be like number. I just put these on here for an example to talk to you about. It's like that. It's going to be
Right.
something we talk about. It's going to be quotes on the whiteboard, as well as two other things. And then this is something new for me that I think is going to be super important is leadership training. So I'm going to have three captains. I'm just assuming three. If for some reason we need only two, or if for some reason four are standing out as leaders, or the team chooses to have more captains, I'm going to spend time outside of practice with those captains on how they could be better leaders. So, like one thing, I want when I picture us in a tight moment, I picture my setter having a ton of influence on the girls, like being
Right.
able to motivate them and stuff like that. So I'm gonna do a workshop with my captains, like how are we creating and using our influence, and then get them to implement that stuff into practice. So we'll
That's
have a
nice.
section for
Yeah,
phase
more
one on that.
responsibility on them.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely are. I think that they have more control over the team than I do. They're out on the
Yeah.
court.
Oh, for sure.
They're with them. They're the team. I'm just the guy directing.
Right.
So and then we have
Are
like
you gonna choose these captains before you start practices or after the first or what?
my goal is to do it the first week.
The
So
first week.
we've been already talking about it, and I've been asking them. Like I sent out a questionnaire asking like what qualities you guys like in a leader, what
Hmm.
qualities don't you like in a leader, who on your team do you feel like is has the most of those positive qualities that you see in a leader.
Right.
Um, so like right off the bat, everybody's like Maddie. Like they all want Maddie to be a captain. I'm like
What the
sweet,
fuck?
already got one locked in. Great. And she's just awesome with the girls.
Right.
It's awesome that she's a setter, and she is like super compassionate, and she's very like she doesn't get mad when people give her feedback as a setter. She's like, tell me. And she's like friends with everybody. They all have good relationships with her. She's the
Right.
only one where people feel like she's not clicked into a certain small group.
Right.
So
Yeah, you see that way too often.
yeah, that one's done. So we'll have mentality sections for the phase one, leadership section for the phase one, and then team offense. So this is kind of like how I decided to break down the other stuff. Is like, what do you need first? Well, we got to pass tough serves, run a fast offense, and use the block. So that's going to be phase one stuff, and then I'm going to do the same thing for team defense. And then based off of what I have for team offense and defense, we're going to break that down into what we're going to be doing for position work for offensive days, and then position work for defensive days, and then I have a section on here that I'm going to add for individual highlights. So, like I said, like my middles need to be on it. They got to be really good blockers. They got to be a threat. So she's going to be there for like individual highlights. Works a lot with Anita on making her elbow higher. You got muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Did you catch that last part?
Repeat it.
Um, so we'll break it down based off of, oh, you froze again. It's because you're on the move, probably.
Hold on. You hear me now?
Yeah.
Cool. What was that last part you said?
Just that we're gonna have offensive days. So this is the team offensive goal. Defensive days is the team defense goal, and then that will break down further into what are we doing for position work or skill work for offense and defense, and then
Mm.
who needs individual attention. Like what are the big highlights? Like Ari needs to jump better, and Anita's elbow needs to be higher. So like while we're working on skills, you guys need to put a lot of attention on these specific cases. And this is just
When do
like
you,
helping
so
me.
the offensive defensive days
Yeah.
for skill, you get 3 practices a week, right? So I'm assuming you're gonna do offense one day, defense the other day.
Right. And then the third day will be highly competitive or position based, because like that'll be the day that I'm with you and
Mm-hmm.
on Sundays, and we'll have a lot of coaches. So we'll be able to break it up a little bit more,
Cool.
less structured based off of my team plan,
Right.
and more on like how are they getting better individually or competitively.
And that's an individual too.
Yeah, yeah. So that
Okay.
could be something that we put down here too. But if you just look at the practice plan, this is why I'm writing the phases out like this.
Yeah.
Is
Dude, I think this is so like uniquely constructed, and it definitely gives you something to tell the girls and like start the season off with that they can look back to and hold them accountable to. I think the accountability piece here is huge. It's
Yeah,
like you like not even as like a player on the court, but off the court. Like, are you really being mindful about what we're going through, how we're doing it, what the goal is? I think primarily.
and then there's a lot of pressure too because I'm telling them you've got 6 practices to nail this so
Right.
that we can move on. And now there's pressure because if you don't meet the standard, we're moving on.
Right.
You know, I'm done teaching this. So
Hmm.
whichever 6 players nail this are going to be seeing more court time, right?
Right.
And then there's a second batch of 6 players that might be your second lineup. But there are some girls that there's like 3 of their position. So I'm hoping that they're like, I really need to go, where I might not
Yeah.
see the court.
You should hear the parents talk about it right now, dude. It's like you,
Sorry.
you don't. The parents talk about like their kids playing time and stuff,
Yeah.
and like I don't tell them anything. I just kind of like yeah, uh-huh. So
Yeah, it's intimidating.
and I wouldn't say it's intimidating, but
Your food.
it's just
Eat it.
going to be addressed if they don't. If it's going to be addressed if they think otherwise, and this again gives you something to bounce back on.
Yeah, I try to beat that by taking the points, making points at practice, and then
Hmm.
2, I let them know going into a tournament. This is my starting lineup. This is second string. This is third string for this
Okay.
tournament. And then at the end, like, why isn't my daughter playing? All right, here you go. Look at the board. Or like stats, right? I'm gonna have Brandy and Shane
Right.
doing stats for
Uh-huh.
certain parts of practice. Or we're all gonna be doing stats for certain parts of practice and tournaments, and then be like, look, this is what's going on. You can see
Right.
it. You tell me why. Read this.
Right. No,
Read this and
definitely.
tell
Like,
me why she's not playing.
right.
So sorry, we're
Can you
trying to win.
read? Can you read volleyball?
Yeah.
Wait, no, you can't. Let me explain. Oh, you
Or
don't
you'll
want to
love.
listen to me? I can't help you though.
I think you'll love. This is what's kind of cool about where we get to this point where we kind of have some reputation to back us. Is
Mhm.
there's a 16s twos team. Like if you're not happy with where
Right.
you're at, I know a team. The other coach would love to have you on the court the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want that? Okay, then stop telling me that that's what you want. Right?
Right.
I don't want playing time.
Right.
You want to be on this team, right? Oh, you want to start on this team? Okay, well, this is how you do it. I can't, you
Right.
got to help me win here. If you want playing time, you got a chance over there. If you
Right.
want playing time here, you know what you got to do. Bun, he took your fork and chicken.
Dude,
I told you.
Winston.
I literally just told you.
Sorry.
Eat it. Eat it. Come on now.
I look over and he's got the fork in his mouth with the chicken on the end of it.
Go away. Go.
He's just missing the knife to like.
Right.
That's so funny.
So just the last thing I wanted to point out, as I'm
Mhm.
hoping the other coaches kind of look at this and be like, oh, I could structure like this, is I think this is the go-to practice plan. I've never seen a college program or a top club program not follow this flow.
Right.
Warm up. If you're not conditioning, you're warming up first.
Right.
And then you do a 10-minute or like net setup. It should be done before that actually. But for us, we'll be conditioning, then net setup.
Right.
Warm up, 10 minutes of ball control, like your ball control warm up. And then you guys go into skill work. It depends on where you're at in your season. Like early in the season, I got a lot of time before
I always structure the skill work. I'm
Yeah.
definitely gonna be changing that with service heap, just like you have it down here.
Yeah, and then
It
serve
it
receive.
just
I mean, my goal is I got a lot of individual things and skill things I got to fix. So I'm going to put a ton of time there. And then serve and pass needs to be every day.
Yeah.
20 minutes. They need to be learning how to bomb serves and pass really hard serves.
Yeah.
And then
I also like it kind of leads to kind of a concept you told me last year was it's better to have a narrow amount or like a small amount of drills that you're doing so they really lock them down compared to having a wide variety of them. And
yeah,
if you really break down the phases here, you can choose a specific drill to go over per week. And like we're gonna be doing this drill on Tuesdays for the next 2 weeks. So just keep in mind like there should be improvement. Like we should be seeing something instead of coming in and today we're gonna do this and then we're gonna do that. And
yep.
So just and then it, what drill do you think is gonna work? And if it doesn't, all right, switch it up. But just always coming back to that a drill that can address that.
Big time. And then making just game like as possible.
Dude, that's very important too. Including the ball control too.
Sometimes I'm like trying to do that. I'm trying to make practice or drills, and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna have a blocker go up against the hitter. Okay, but she'll never block by herself. She'll always block with somebody else. So let me add another blocker. Okay, but then there'll be a defender, and then I like start to write out drills, and it ends up I'm like, oh shit, just 6-on-6.
Yeah, exactly. No, to me, it's the one that, okay, who should be inputting balls? Okay, I'm gonna toss them in. No, but nobody ever tosses a ball. Here, I'll have the libero on this side, pass it over. No, but she can't free ball pass over. And maybe I should practice free ball passing. No, and then you just end up like back on square one and like third.
Yeah. It's very hard.
It's so funny.
That's why I like to watch those college coaches, though. They make it seem so simple.
Yeah, they do. Simplicity. That's one of the quotes I heard from, I think, Joe Rogan podcast. Simplicity sets you free.
Yeah.
No, my freaking Joe Rogan, one of my professors, she's like, be simple, be simple. Simple sets you free. I'm like, oh, simple is free. Simple is easy.
Yeah.
You can make it really hard on yourself.
Big time. So yeah, that's basically why I have that. That's going to be the practice plan for every day.
That's awesome. I love, dude. I think the phases and the concepts, everything you're going over, and how everything is structured the way it is. Like I said, it's unique and it stands out, bro. I think the girls, especially if you're gonna give them a copy of this, you're gonna be like, oh shit. Like they're, it just shows. It comes to show, like, what is this? Like, wow, he put all this together. Like he means it.
This is just going into the first tournament.
Yeah.
This is just for the first practice.
That too.
Yeah, and then I got some notes,
That's awesome.
but this is just
like
where I started. Where do you want to go?
That. That's awesome.
This is something cool and new that I want to try to do is make more TikToks as ways to teach them stuff when they're not at practice. This is
I've been wanting to make a TikTok with the 16s for the longest, and they never want to do one. Like they never want to teach me what to do or like tell me what to do, and I'm like, no. Bro, I want to make a TikTok, but not volleyball related, just a TikTok.
You can do a TikTok with my girls. They know how to teach. They always want me to do them, and I don't want to do them.
Oh, lame, dude! I can't wait for the day they come up to me and ask me.
Yeah, I'll tell them.
Yeah, let them be like, hey, Dana's one down.
But I want to start doing more. Like I'm gonna ask Shayna and Brandy and myself to all, like if we see something, we're gonna film practices and games. So when we're watching those films afterwards, like if you see something you need to talk about, screen record it and then do a voiceover and then post it as a TikTok so that they can go look at it whenever.
Yeah.
And
it's in their feed.
Yeah.
They can't avoid it.
Calling you out, Anita. And then just like some drills I want to do. This is going to be fun. Plus, like just doing things like this now, like +6, banging out a system. It's literally going to be 6-on-6, but I'm going to bounce the ball in and the setter has to set it out of system. And they're going to keep going until one team gets 6 points out of system. So just simple. 6-on-6, second ball bounced or first ball bounced in. Setter's got to set it right away. Try to get a kill.
I think that's the jet.
17-17. I love that drill. Waves, a lot of good points in waves. And then